With a filmmaking career that spanned nearly 4 decades, director Bob Clark's name is synonymous with one of the most beloved holiday family comedies of all time, A Christmas Story, the 1983 box office flop that has since amassed such a devoted cult following, it's generated countless merchandise, popular tourist destinations, and to this day, it still runs on cable for a full 24-hour loop every Christmas Day. But like many other self-made independent filmmakers, Bob Clark started out directing low-budget B-grade horror films due to the relative ease of raising their funds, including the 1972 zombie horror comedy Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, and 1974's Dead of Night, the haunting story of an American soldier who mysteriously returns home after fighting in Vietnam, despite having already been pronounced dead. These films have since become underground cult favorites due to their connection to Bob Clark and because of their surprisingly creepy low-budget nature. But it was Clark's third major feature that marked a real turning point for his filmmaking career. And yes, it was a Christmas movie, only it's nothing like the one he's most famous for. The 1974 Canadian-funded slasher film, Black Christmas, is an often overlooked cult classic within the genre, even though it predates and has had direct influence on some of the most popular horror films of all time. Black Christmas is the bleak story of a small-town college sorority house being stalked by a faceless psychopath who harasses the girls with lewd, threatening phone calls and slowly picks them off one by one as they prepare to leave for Christmas break. Black Christmas boasts a strong cast, made up of young up-and-comers and veteran character actors. Coming off her star-making role in the hit 1968 adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, British actress Olivia Hussey leads the cast as soft-spoken sorority member Jess, while 2001: A Space Odyssey's Keir Dullea fills the role of her high-strung, domineering boyfriend Peter, a likely suspect in the killing spree. There's a pre-Superman Margot Kidder as the crass and outspoken Barb, and in one of her earliest roles, actress and comedian Andrea Martin plays Phil. Prolific Canadian actress Lynn Griffin plays Claire, the unfortunate victim whose plastic bag suffocation death is probably the film's most iconic and memorable. And then there's Lieutenant Ken Fuller, played by character actor John Saxon, a year after starring alongside martial arts legend Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, and a whole decade before playing one of his most recognized roles, another police lieutenant, Don Thompson, in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. It's a stellar cast, all giving solid performances, which is something you don't typically get within the low-budget slasher genre, and great performances really can make all the difference, by making the characters feel less disposable, where the actual murders inherently have more of an impact. Black Christmas may not be the very first of its kind, but it came out at a time before its familiar slasher tropes became tired and stale, like how the camera is frequently used as the killer's point of view, or the famous "the calls are coming from inside the house" cliche, which didn't really get popularized until 5 years later with the release of When a Stranger Calls. The film is also clearly having a lot of fun playing with the idea that it uses the most joyous time of the year as a backdrop for a gruesome murder mystery, and yet it doesn't get overly cheesy or heavy-handed with it. It's an interesting juxtaposition that gives the whole film this ominous, cold atmosphere, which is all punctuated by a minimalist score that mixes traditional Christmas carols with foreboding ambient sound. Famously, the holiday-themed horror of Black Christmas had a direct influence on John Carpenter's game-changing slasher, Halloween, which wasn't released until 4 years later. But its massive popularity not only ushered in the slasher genre's golden years of the late 70s and early 80s, it also completely overshadowed what would eventually become the long-lasting impact of Black Christmas, which didn't quite get the credit it deserved until much later.
I absolve John Carpenter every time by saying, there is truth to it in the facts are that I was going to direct a film that John wrote a couple of years after Black Christmas. He was a big fan of Black Christmas. He was just beginning his career. And John had asked me, if I was ever going to do a sequel. And I said, no, his film was the last horror film I was going to do. But if I did do a sequel, he said, what would you do? And I said, well, what I thought I'd do is I would make it the following fall. Somehow, in the interim, the killer had been caught. He'd been institutionalized. And I would have him escape one night. And now he's free in the community. And nobody knows it at first. And he starts stalking them again at the Black Christmas sorority house. And I was going to call it Halloween. Now, when you think of what John Carpenter did wrote a script, really quite different from that idea, just the basic core of it, like a sentence, cast it, directed it, edited it, did the music, what is it? Oh, maybe the title Halloween, he should have given me a little footnote, but I didn't own that either. I think John Carpenter did nothing but take a germ of an idea, and why shouldn't he have? Nothing kept him from it, but I think it was influenced, yes, as were a few others.
For nearly 20 years, Black Christmas has seen numerous DVD and Blu-ray releases. It was first released on Blu-ray by Critical Mass in 2008, with a serviceable HD transfer and a handful of special features. Then in 2015, Anchor Bay released a special Seasons Grievings Anniversary Edition in Canada that added more special features to the ones from the previous Blu-ray release. The next year, Scream Factory released the Ultimate Collector's Edition Blu-ray that not only remastered the film with a brand new HD transfer, but also included all the bonus content that was ever included in all the previous DVD and Blu-ray releases, along with producing a couple of their own original featurettes. Disc 1 begins with the film itself getting a much needed and well done picture quality upgrade, where Scream Factory created a 2K scan of the original 35mm print, cleaned up as much wear and tear as they could, returned it to its original aspect ratio, and gave it much more accurate color grading and film grain than previous versions. Likely due to the film's budget, it's seen some damage over the years, but this new transfer brilliantly shows off the film's stark uses of colorful Christmas lights and deep shadows. Disc 1 also features 3 separate audio commentaries to choose from. The first recorded by director Bob Clark for the original 2001 DVD release, the second recorded by co-stars John Saxon and Keir Dullea, also for the 2001 DVD, and the third featuring actor Nick Mancuso in character as the mysterious Billy, which was recorded for Anchor Bay's 2015 Seasons Grievings Blu-ray. We also get a 26-minute audio-only interview with director Bob Clark, originally recorded around 2006, where he talks about both Black Christmas and A Christmas Story. Disc 2 begins with the film's original HD transfer from previous Blu-ray releases, which certainly pales in comparison to the new transfer, but it's cool they included it nonetheless. Next up are 2 brand new featurettes that were created specifically for this set, an interview with actor Art Hindle and a discussion with actress Lynn Griffin. We also get various behind-the-scenes retrospectives from previous releases, including Black Christmas Legacy, On-Screen Black Christmas, 12 Days of Black Christmas, and Black Christmas Revisited. We also get a whopping 100 minutes worth of archival interviews with director Bob Clark and a few of the film's stars, which runs longer than the film itself. Next up are a pair of Q&A panels, one from a 2004 30th anniversary Los Angeles screening, and the other from a 40th anniversary cast reunion at Toronto's Fan Expo in 2014. We continue on with 2 isolated scenes from the film that include alternate audio tracks that were newly discovered during the production of the original 2008 Blu-ray, a pair of alternate opening credit sequences that use a couple of the film's other working titles, the English and French theatrical trailers, 3 minutes worth of TV and radio spots, and finally, a photo gallery. Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Black Christmas is truly a sight to behold. As a collector, nothing is more frustrating than upgrading formats only to see that the new version omits features included in a previous one. But for my money, Scream Factory has always been up there with the Criterion Collection in how it prides itself on the curation of their Blu-rays and how they truly feel like they're made for collectors by collectors. So for all you Black Christmas completists out there, well, you're probably already well aware of this fantastic release. But nevertheless, while I'd probably give the film itself a 4 out of 5 recommendation, it is no doubt a historically significant entry in the slasher genre, and Scream Factory's Blu-ray is just so damn satisfying, I'll bump my final rating up to a full 5 out of 5 final recommendation.
He's expanded his act.
It's always been funny to me that Bob Clark, the guy behind one of the most well-loved family Christmas comedies ever, was the same guy who also created one of the most influential and atmospheric slasher films of all time, and a Christmas-themed one at that. So, now that we've talked about Black Christmas, and it's still pretty early into the holiday season, I think I know the perfect film to dive into in the next episode.
Hooray for Santa Claus! Yay, yay for Santa Claus!
Or, I guess we could talk about this one.
No, I want an You'll shoot your eye out, kid.